Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
Hey chiropractors, tired of doing weekend-long health screenings at health fairs? Is spending weeks preparing for talks or workshops getting in the way of quality time with your family and friends? Then why aren't you tapping into social media for new patients? 1, you don't have the time to learn, and 2, you don't want to waste the money trying to see what will work for you. Wouldn't it be great if there was a done-for-you social media marketing service that you could try risk-free to see if it would work for you? Wouldn't it be great if that service could bring you anywhere from 10 to 45 new patients per month into your practice? Guess what? I have a solution for you. 3S Chiropractic Systems is a company run by chiropractors with years of web and social media marketing experience, and they're offering you a complete, affordable, done-for-you package. This system is swooping across the globe and is geographically exclusive, so find out right now if your area is available. They offer a full money-back guarantee for the first month, so there's no risk. Apply at 3schiropracticsystems.com/TCP to make sure you don't miss out. All right, TCP listeners, I have an incredible guest today, and that is actually Dr. Michael Johnson. Dr. Michael, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on the podcast, Dr. Ed.
I'm excited. Actually, in our pre-chat, we were just talking, and you were saying, "Hey, man, I'm really excited." Like, truly, you are excited to share what we're going to share today for everyone. But actually, I'm really excited too, because this is a conversation, and I'm going to throw a hook in here, Dr. Michael. This is a conversation that I haven't really had an opportunity in 260 some episodes to talk about. But everyone who's listening right now, you got to listen to the end to actually hear what we're going to say. So let's start though with the flow, like we always do. Dr. Michael, for those people who are listening, tell us a little bit about you as a chiropractor. Tell us a little bit about you as a person as well.
All right. Well, I don't have a healing chiropractic story, which I know a lot of chiropractors do. I got into chiropractic. I was actually in college to become a business major, and I had opened a martial arts studio, and I was teaching martial arts, and I was giving private instruction. And one of my students was Dr. John Robinson, who's a local chiropractor here. And just one day after our lesson, he said, "You'd make a great chiropractor." And, he explained to me what chiropractic was. Everybody knows the power of the body heals the body, the whole thing. And it just made so much sense to me at the time. And, of course, I've modeled my life after that now. But it just hit me. And he really mentored me. He took a day off out of his practice and drove me up to Palmer College, which is like a 6-hour drive from where I live, to show me the college, and haven't looked back. Love it. Love being a chiropractor.
That's, I always say, like, I don't really have a sexy chiropractic story. Honestly, it made sense. It just made sense. It's like, why didn't everybody do this? That makes so much sense. I think that's where, we do have that saying that we're all more alike than we are different on TCP. And it's true, is that we all have this calling, this need that we want to, or feeling that we want to help more people. So thank you for sharing that. And, let's talk a little bit about quotes and affirmations. Do you have a quote or affirmation you'd like to drop on doctors today?
I have actually two. One is, I think, an original quote, maybe not. This is my wife's quote. It's, "Love is a verb. Love is a verb." And, obviously love is a feeling, but loving someone requires doing. So whether it's your spouse, a child, a friend, a parent, it's what you do for them that's really love. So my wife and I kind of have this expression between us, based on that quote, "Love is a verb," that you verbed somebody, which meant you did something for someone just because you loved them. So
that's awesome. I mean, it's, love, relationships, all of those things, they do require work. They require energy, don't they?
Yeah. Another quote that I had the opportunity to listen to Jim Parker back in the Parker days, and there's probably a zillion Jim Parker quotes, but the one that really stuck for me is, "Don't let the negative few ruin the positive many," which I said over and over in my struggle, which I know we'll get to.
Yeah, actually, we're going to go there right now.
We're going there right now. Just dive right into the struggle.
Well, because, because that's a perfect segue, right? It really is, because we've all had negative stuff happen. We've all had the struggles. We've all had the resistance as doctors, as chiropractors, or even just who are like people that are just listening today. And part of the purpose of TCP podcast is really to help those people, those chiros who are feeling isolated, feeling like they're the only ones who have struggle, to really know that it's temporary and that they can overcome. So, Doc, you got to share with us. Tell us a time that you experienced the struggle, the resistance, what you learned from that experience, and how you apply it into your life and business today.
Well, I've had several struggles that many of your other guests have had, but I wanted to share a struggle that I'm sure other docs have had, but I don't know that I've heard anyone say this on TCP. So this was June 2015. I get a letter in the mail. It's from the Office of the Indiana Attorney General. And it says, "State of Indiana versus Michael Johnson," before the Board of Indiana Board of Chiropractic Examiners. So there's the proverbial kick in the gonads. Everything's going along fine. Get this letter in the mail. I'm brought up before the state board. 2 days later, I have a deputy from the sheriff department walk in who I know. It's like, "Hey, how's it going?" He goes, "Well, apparently somebody has a little problem with you," and he hands me a summons, and it's a personal suit against me for $170,000. So, yeah. So what do? You have a lot of sleepless nights. Fortunately, with NCMIC, they got me attorney. This was not a malpractice case. The statute of limitation had passed for this case, but let me kind of tell you what the story is. Mm-hmm. So this patient comes in, because this is a story I know lots of chiropractors have had too. This patient comes in, he's been in an auto accident. He had seen a chiropractor out of town, or out of state actually, before he came to see me. He'd hired a local firm that I worked with for years, an attorney's firm, to represent him in the case. So we do the treatment. I release him from care, but this guy, he keeps coming back, and I keep treating him. With these personal injury cases, we have the patient sign an attorney's lien, so we just keep treating until the case is settled, and so we keep treating. Well, as time goes by, we get a letter from the attorney that they no longer represent him. So we stopped treatment. He decides he's going to settle the case for himself. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of, I don't know all this stuff is going on, but so he gets all the billing and stuff from my front desk, and he goes about getting the case settled. And this takes months, year, I don't know how long it was between all this happened. But one day my front desk says, "Well, the case settled and the patient collected from the insurance company," and you know what that typically means. You're not going to get paid. So,
yeah. So
coincidentally, within probably a week, I run into this patient at a gas station. So, I just kind of chit chat with him, "How you doing?" and that kind of thing, and said, "I understand that you got a settlement, and I just kind of wondering when we'd expect payment," and that was about it. Mm-hmm. So that's the story. So unbeknownst to me at the time, what I didn't realize was that he was also a Medicare patient, which we have them sign the form that says, only Medicare pays this amount, or only pays for the adjustment and stuff. So we were billing him the balance that he owed us. Well, I didn't realize that he also has Indiana Medicaid. And so when you do electronic billing, it automatically crosses over to Indiana Medicaid. And of course, Medicaid patients, we can't bill with the contract with Medicaid. So I brought it before the state board because I had billed this Medicaid patient. And since he hadn't paid, the procedure in our office is after 90 days, it just goes to collections. So it had went to collections. This guy's getting collection notices. So anyway, that's why I'm brought up before the state board. But during this time, it takes a long time to get all this information together, to get the hearing set with the state board. And, it's just a tough time to go through. And I gotta say thank you to you, because, at that time, you try to, what I thought my best option would be to do, what can I do to control my life when things are spinning out of control? What do I have control of? So one thing is my health, and I've always worked out, but I started running pretty regular at that time, and you were in my ear. You and your guests were in my ear. Listen to other chiropractors with their struggles and successes, and keeping me in the game. So it really helped keep my head on straight. So time goes on. This was in June. We had a hearing in September. It kept getting pushed back. We go back and forth with the board, and finally, I get a reprimand from the board. The board gives me a $5 reprimand that just basically says, "Don't bill Medicaid patients." So I'm like, I don't. It was like a clerical error. So anyway, it's all said and done.
Yeah. So
you think it's over, but no, I still have this personal case against me for $170,000. And so Thanksgiving 2015, Thanksgiving weekend, which was when all the sales come out in the newspapers, everybody gets the newspaper on Thanksgiving weekend in our community. The front page of the paper says, "Local chiropractor receives reprimand from state board." The whole story.
Wow.
So the personal case against me, NCMIC won't represent me with that because it's a personal case. So I have hired the same attorney to continue to fight for me in this personal case. And it goes back and forth with interrogatories and court dates. And I never had to appear. The attorney went for me. These hearings would come up and they would get pushed back. But finally, by last fall of 2016, the case was just dropped because it was a frivolous case. He was suing me for all kinds of ridiculous things that never happened. And so anyway, the case was dropped. So it's all done. But it was some struggle to get through that. And I got to give you credit for helping me through that. But also I was coaching with Dr. Bob Hoffman of the Master Circle, and he kept me in the game. So 2015, when this all hit the fan, ended up being my best year ever. And then 2016, we were up another 20% over 2015. So it didn't hurt my practice at all. It was just that personal turmoil that you have to go through.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to acknowledge you and thank you for sharing that, because, this is something that I remember, gosh, it would have been like 10 years ago. I was speaking in Toronto, and I'm like, I was so naive. I was like, because I had a complaint, and I'm like, I just assumed that everyone gets complaints or everyone talks about this stuff in our profession. But nobody does. Nobody talks about it at all. And I'm like, I said something on the stage, and I go, "Raise your hand if you've had a complaint." I was the only person with my hand up, like out of 300 people in the room. And I think there was one person who kind of raised their hand up halfway.
Yeah. And the other ones just didn't raise their hands.
Yes. Everyone's had it, or it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. Yeah. And the difference was first of all, we don't talk about it. And second of all was what I what I like about your story here, and I'll call it a story, is because, it seems like, the board saw that it was frivolous. Like $5, it's like basically, it's like, just paperwork. So it did seem like they were supporting you in that sense, which I love. I mean, I think as a profession, whether it's, state by state or province by province, that's what we need. Is we need our state associations, our province associations to really just back the chiros. This is what I observed having friends who are dentists, is it's always like they're always on the side of the dentist until they're proven that the dentist is actually completely guilty, right? But they're assumed innocent, right?
Yeah.
Until that point. So no, I'm glad that we brought this to TCP, because it's I guarantee there's someone listening right now, they needed to really hear this story. So thank you for that. And so what, I'm going to kind of maybe pull from this as well, Dr. Johnson, and that is that, it seems like you really grew from that experience. Like your practice is up. You sound like you have maybe even gained some confidence from that. I don't know. Like, I mean, was there any other side effects from that?
It's really just to keep moving forward. It's like these things you can't control, but, keep doing the best that you can do. Always trying to create a better version of yourself, a better version of your practice, keep growing. Nobody can stop you from doing those things. So I suppose that's, what I learned from it or kept me going.
Perseverance. Yeah.
There you go.
And so what I'd love to talk about, and I always love talking about, is podcasting. So I know you sent me this incredible, I saw this incredible picture. It was like a billboard, like a highway billboard, and it was you, and it's your podcast, and it's like the most incredible ad I've ever seen. So tell us a little bit about your podcast, and then I want to talk a little bit about also, we're going to talk about technique today.
Yeah, right. So the podcast is thanks to you. I joined the TCP podcast movement. I did your training, which was great. Everything's online. I never would have figured this out by myself, nor would have had the courage to do it. So I want to thank you for that. But the podcast itself is called the Back Doctors Podcast. And the purpose of my podcast is to bring hope to the millions of people who suffer with back pain, because there's not an answer out there that most people know. And I think that we as a profession have the answer. And in particular, Cox certified practitioners. I'm trying to elevate those doctors as the spine specialists that we are, because we treat the most difficult spine cases. I mean, we feed on that. I mean, that's where we get our juice from, these difficult cases. The 1 out of 4 that are 80 to 95% of the cost of back pain. Those are the difficult cases that we like to treat. So that's what the podcast is about. But it's geared toward the layperson, that I'm hoping that people find me on iTunes by searching back pain or back doctors, and they hear one of our podcasts, and then we give them links where they can contact the doctor who's being interviewed, or can contact a spine specialist through Cox Technique website.
Beautiful. I mean, and so I'm going to encourage everyone who's listening, right, is that you can actually share this content. You don't have to go out and create your own podcast right now. You can actually go and check out Back Doctors. You can share that content with existing patients, or even use it as content and mail to your email list. Basically share it as education. I mean, you've actually even had an opportunity to interview on that podcast Dr. Cox.
Yes, so Dr. Cox is on there. So I'd encourage your listeners to go to the Back Doctors Podcast on any of your podcast players. I'm on iTunes and Stitchers and FM Player, all those. Put in the Back Doctors Podcast. Episode 5 is Dr. Cox, and if you haven't heard Dr. Cox, I mean, he's speaking to a lay audience, but still, he's just an incredible source of knowledge, and the work that he's done for this profession is just amazing. I mean, he's up there with, Gonstead and Thompson and, these greats in our profession. I put him up there with BJ, but I didn't know BJ, but he's done the work. He's been in the profession since 1963. So
very cool. Yeah, and I'm all about virtual content, virtual learning, self-study courses, all of those different types of ways that people can get information, digest information, grow and expand themselves, their life, their business, their practice. But they can do it from their own home. Now, Dr. Cox has a program too. That's a virtual program, right?
Yeah, he has, to become certified, you have to put in 30 hours of coursework. Well, 8 of those hours can be done online. Mm-hmm. So you can get started, at home. Then there is, actual classroom time and a written as well as a practical exam to become certified.
Okay, cool. And so everyone who's listening, so just so I'm clear, so Dr. Johnson, we can actually drop in the link where they can actually go and check out the virtual course, right? The 8-hour course. And you have a special offer, like it's like 50% off anyone who uses the coupon code that we're going to embed or put in the show notes here today, or the link, if you actually head over to the chiropracticphilanthropist.com, we'll put the code there for everyone. It's for the first 25 docs only. But that's an incredible offer. I mean, I got to tell you, when I was in practice, that was one of the things that I always felt like I needed to keep, even though I was adjusting every day. It was like I always felt like I needed to learn something new, whether, especially when it came to technique. And maybe it was my confidence, like it helped with my confidence by doing that. Yeah. But I mean, and being someone who lived like up north, Alberta, Canada, I mean, it was not easiest to go in and actually get the this information. So I appreciate you bringing that to listeners.
Yeah, and again, the purpose is to get more doctors certified, mm-hmm. and to become the spine specialists that we are. I kind of wanted to reference this article that came out in the Journal of Chiropractic Humanities, 2016, and this paper talked about who we think we are and who the public thinks we are. And it says the purpose of this commentary is to provide an argument for the role and identity of chiropractors as spine care providers within the context of the greater healthcare system. So the conclusion is that although the chiropractic profession may debate internally about its professional identity, the chiropractic identity seems to have already been established by society, practice, legislation, and education as a profession of healthcare providers whose area of expertise is spine care. So, if you don't feel like you're an expert, and I kind of hope that you already do, but if you want to be an expert and again, take care of these most difficult cases, I really encourage you to become a certified Cox Technique practitioner.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so it's that time, Doc. We're going to actually transition into Back to the Future. So this is actually the part where I put you into the TCP time machine. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so we're going to put you in the TCP time machine. We're going to send you back to the younger version of yourself. It's right after you came out of chiropractic college. You got all the life and knowledge, life experience that you currently have today. What would you say to that younger self?
Probably 2 things. Get a coach or a mentor who is doing what you want to do. And I eventually did, but it took me maybe 3 years out of practice before I finally hired a coach. And then I've pretty much had a coach throughout my practice years. So I'd say hire a coach. Also, I would say be a spine specialist, because throughout my years in practice, I've done it all. And I've marketed for wellness, weight loss, fibromyalgia, ADHD. I've done all that. But another study that just came out, this is out of Spine Journal, and this is just April 28th of 2017. This paper is called The Prevalence, Patterns, and Predictors of Chiropractic Use Among U.S. Adults, Results from a 2012 National Health Interview Survey. And they took about 3,500 patients and surveyed them. And this is what they found. Back pain, 63%, and neck pain, 30%, were the most prevalent health problems for chiropractic consultations, which means that all this time and effort that I put in to marketing to that 7% that would contain all those other patients, of all those other things that we know as chiropractors we can help. But the public's perception, 93% come for neck and back pain. Mm-hmm. So it makes it's made my life a whole lot easier to focus on that 93% instead of marketing to the 7% that I spent years marketing to.
Yeah.
So, and it's really my passion too. If it's not your thing, to work on difficult spine cases, then it's not your thing. But for me, that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the research behind Cox Technique and the ongoing research and the results that it gets. So I just want to encourage everybody to, at least take a listen to episode 5 with Dr. Cox and see if that sparks an interest for you to dive in to get certified.
Beautiful. Thank you. And so I'm going to ask you one final question that is always related to resources on TCP. So here it is. Invaluable resource, something you're reading, something you're listening to, maybe even a course you're taking right now. Anything at all that you would like to drop on docs that you go, look, everyone has to go and do this?
It's tough to get one. I'll make it 2 about the same thing. And this, I can't remember if I heard this guest on your podcast or another podcast, Hal Elrod. Hal Elrod with the Miracle Morning. It's a simple book that basically says, what do the most successful people do in the morning? And let's do all those things every morning. So that has been a tremendous help to me, along with a book called Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin, nice, which talks about habits as well. So it helps you formulate habits that that you want to do. For example, there was something that resonated with me. It's called an if-then statement. So I work out every morning, no matter what morning, for a half an hour. I'm a P90X fan, so I do P90X3 every morning, but I have an if-then. If I miss, then I have to do 2 workouts the next day. Mm-hmm. Or if I don't do a P90X, I have to run a 5K or for 30 minutes or something. So those 2 resources just really help fire up your day. I know there's a lot of different ways to do your morning routine, but I think having a morning routine is really essential, just not for your success, but for your sanity and for your health as well. So yeah, that's my resource.
Beautiful. No, those are awesome resources. Actually, I might even take that. I like that if then. I might even borrow that. So I appreciate it. All right, listeners, you can actually head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We're going to have downloadable links and resources on a webpage we have dedicated to our discussion with Dr. Johnson today. If you're actually listening on your mobile, expand open your show notes. We'll have all the clickable links right there for you. Dr. Johnson, I really enjoyed our discussion today. I love talking about podcasting. I really enjoyed talking about chiropractic and technique specifically. So I want to thank you so much for sharing and giving back today.
Well, thanks for all you do, Ed. I appreciate it.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.